Hammer, where would you rank that performance from De'Aaron Fox on Saturday in the 6 years he's been in the league?
It was a good one. Yeah. I mean, he's changing his focus. His defense has been great most of the season. He's allowed a couple of blow-bys, but overall, I think he's been really good defensively. He's asked to take on tough covers in crucial moments of games. The rebounding numbers were just absolutely spectacular. 13 rebounds, a career high. Did the shots go down? No, especially in the fourth quarter. I think he missed the last 4 or 5 shots he took, but it shows you that if he does the other things, which Mike Brown has been preaching to him, that the scoring is what they expect. The way they win is for him to do the other stuff,
Mm.
and I think it's really really smart that Mike Brown is pitching it that way, but also that De'Aaron is kind of embracing it and living up to it, and taking on the challenge each and every night. Now they just need to string some wins together.
And the thing about it too, Hammer, that kind of, I don't want to say I like, because that would maybe imply that I don't care about him playing defense throughout the game, which I do. Like I want him to play defense as much as possible throughout the game. But let's just take Saturday, for example. I don't think he would have been guarding Tyler Hero for all 35 minutes he was in the game and asking him to play that type of defense and score 20 something points. And like, that's not it. But I do like the fact that it's another wrinkle to his game where, maybe he's, somewhere else defensively throughout the game. But in the final 5-6 minutes, if there's a guard that's starting to go off, all right, let me guard him, coach. Let me get out there and let me take that challenge to kind of close the game. I like that aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what has to happen for this team to get over the hump. I'd like to tell you that they can run Davion Mitchell out there and have him kind of step into that role and shut down somebody. But at this point, Davion's kind of all over the board and seems lost in what's happening in what they're trying to do as a team. And so I think it's going to be on the starters. Mike Brown has talked about this a couple of times throughout camp, that when he was a young coach, that he had like an 8-man rotation. That's it. Like, these 8 players are playing. The other 7 guys are break glass in case of emergency type players. And he's trying to get away from that. But this team in particular keeps drawing him back to that. Like, it's
Mhm.
really hard for him not to just play the main core guys and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Why? Oh,
Uh,
That was good,
oh,
no,
Marley.
it is really close. We'll have to go to the tape to determine if that's it. That feels like a Tyson Douglas like late start to the count. Like that's a tough one, because I just thought James was giving us a short answer. In my head, I'm thinking, God, what's James' problem? Giving us
No,
short answers.
I don't give short answers, and I wasn't even answering your question. I took it somewhere totally different.
Well,
Uh,
and we'll continue, because the when I thought you had stopped the question, I was going to ask you what is the issue? What do you think is the issue with Davion right now?
you know, I'm not sure, because we have this all-in mentality, right? I wrote about it on Sunday. Mike Brown's been preaching it. They made T-shirts. They want the Kings all in, everyone all in. They signed this giant poster on the wall that is some proclamation that we've never seen, but that basically says that you know it doesn't matter what happens with your playing time or your spot in the rotation or anything else. That you need to be all in, and we're teammates, and we're going to do this together. Um, I just, when you watch him, it's really like the old, Sesame Street. Like, 3 of these kids are doing the same thing, and one of these kids is doing his own thing. And you're just sitting there watching him dribble and dribble and dribble, and then other players start to dribble because now he's got them in a position where the clock is ticking and they've got to make something happen.
Mhm.
And it seems like a lack of understanding of the concepts, or a refusal to accept the concepts, and I'm not sure which. He's a hard worker. He's a guy who wants to be great and all that stuff. but you're playing behind a point guard who's averaging 27.8 points and 7.2 rebounds and 5.3 assists or whatever it is. You're playing behind an all-star basically. Whether he makes it or not, you're playing behind an all-star quality player, and you're fighting for minutes. And right now, he's getting whatever De'Aaron Fox isn't playing, and that wasn't the plan coming in. The plan was for him to play a lot more minutes in this and to really hold down the fort as a defensive stopper. A lot like how we saw Gary Payton play for the Warriors the last couple of years or last season. Like that's what I think that they envisioned for him. And it just like super early, you can see that he's not in the flow. He's not in what everyone else is doing. And it stands out because you have everyone kind of moving and moving and moving, and him just pounding the rock. And at some point, he's got to figure it out, or he's going to play even less. And I get it. It's difficult. Not only is he playing with new players, but he's being asked to play off the ball even more than he was before with Monk taking over more of a distributor role. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. You got to get in there, and you know this is an opportunity, and you got to take advantage of it if you're a young player.
If you were talking to Davion Mitchell right now, what would you say you want to see him focus on to do the most that he can with the minutes that he gets? Like, would you say just focus on D, focus on moving the ball? Like, what would your advice to him be?
No, my advice would be very specific. Watch the game that's unfolding in front of you. Follow a guy like Kevin Huerter. Watch his motion. Watch where he goes. Watch how he uses a screen. Watch how he gets open and plays without the ball. And then go out there and emulate that. Like we already know, it's kind of like Fox. We already know you're going to be a good defensive player. That's not what the problem is. We need you to fit in on both ends of the court. And, I know Davion wants to be more than just a defensive player, but to me, that's what it comes down to. It's why it sticks out. You're basically it becomes almost like a 4 flat because he's just like doing stuff that the other guys are like, we can't play off you when you're doing this. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. We can't play off of you. We need you to do something different. And again, maybe it's a young player thing. Maybe it's just like a stubbornness to embrace what the offensive scheme is, which is not built for a guy like him. But I think he can be an exceptional off-ball shooter. Like I still wonder, like they made adjustments to his shot. It was too flat when he was coming in, and now it's really coming out high, and I don't understand a lot of what's happening there. But I still think this is a player who,
That is official. That is an official freeze. James Ham is frozen. We're going. James Ham going for a triple double here today.
Jeez.
James Ham going for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Going for the trifecta.
Yeah. Let's see if I can get all 3 of them in. Yeah.
By the way, for the radio audience, James froze in spectacular fashion on Friday the moment the show ended. It was really sneaky incredible. That is just the show goes off and James freezes.
The one thing I will say though about what James was talking about with Davion Mitchell, it does kind of feel like he's in that zone. You've seen it from young players where they're trying to find out who they are in this league. And I think that's more so what it is with Davion. What's going to be the thing that I can lean on every single night that's going to keep me in the league for 7 to 10 years? And I don't know if there's a struggle with Davion where he knows he can play defense, but he wants to do more. I don't know, but he's trying to find exactly, this is who I am in this league, and I'm going to embrace it and be a star at my role, as Bill Belichick would play. And it's not uncommon for, like you've mentioned, James, before, a number of different young players in this league. Sometimes it takes them 3-4 years to figure out who they are to be able to stay in this league. And once they find out, then they can take it to the next level.
I totally agree. I think one of the worst parts about it, though, is that if he just does what he's supposed to do within the offense, then he will be rewarded by getting more and more and more. So what he's trying to do feels forced, like almost every time. And it feels forced, again, because everyone else is doing something different than him. And so it's collapsing the lanes. It's not giving him the room to work that you would, that he needs. And it really, it's tough to watch sometimes, but it's not like he's the only one. I mean, we've seen struggles from Chimezi Metu. We've seen struggles from Harrison Barnes trying to figure out how he fits into this whole thing. And, of the 5 games, what Harrison Barnes has had, one 20-point game, one game where he really looked good late in the game and came to the rescue, which was this last game. But the other 3 games weren't good at all. We're seeing Rashawn Holmes really struggle to find who and what he is on this team. I thought he was exceptional against Bam late. I thought, he really stepped in defensively. But on the offensive end, he's totally lost. And I don't blame him for being lost, because this isn't an offense that he's used to running and being part of, and they're not doing some of the things that help him become really good. But if you just watch the players that are on the court and what they're doing, it should be pretty simple. Again, Kevin Huerter isn't lost at all. I mean, that guy's a flamethrower. And if you can't watch what he's doing and learn and take in from it and just look at how he's moving off of screens, even if you can't shoot like him, you can still get open like him. You can still move and keep the spacing for others like he's doing. And again, one of the things that I always point to is when if someone is really struggling, or maybe struggling with who and what they are and what's happening, is when they look over and they see their man about to check into the game, and before that can happen, they make sure they get one more shot up. And that's always a sign of like, okay, man, what are we chasing here? Like, because that's not, if it was the right shot, that's fine, but it doesn't feel like it's the right shot. And, he's got some figuring out to do, and that happens with young players.
You caught my attention a second ago when you said this is a new offense that's maybe not doing what helps Davion offensively. What does Davion need offensively?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the problem that I have with this is that he's a guy who played with multiple point guards at the college level, right? So we can't say that he doesn't know how to play off ball. He does know how to play off ball. I mean, it just is what it is. At Baylor, I think they had 3 point guards starting, with him being one of them. So he didn't always have the ball in his hands, but there's a difference between being a lead guard that always has the ball in your hands and being a guard in a motion offense like this. Like, you've got to, it's the 0.5, right? We keep hearing this, Mike Brown, is one of his basic tenets, 0.5. And people are like, what does 0.5 mean? And that means that you need to mentally make a decision about what's going to happen within 0.5 seconds of you touching the ball. That's it. And there is no 3 seconds. There is no 7 or 8 dribbles. None of that. You need to make your decision within 0.5 of a second and move on. You have the ball, you're either shooting it or you're moving it to the next guy. And that's kind of what they have to get used to. That's what he has to get used to. It's the thought process is quicker. And I'll tell you, the same thing with Rashawn Holmes is having a difficult time because he's not showing up to go set the screen until way too late. And so where you're seeing, Sabonis come right down the floor, get into the offense, and instantly start setting screens, Holmes will run down into the block and then start meandering up to the top of the key. Again, the 0.5 seconds has already happened. We're now at 3 seconds, and the shot clock is ticking, and you haven't got us into the offense. And so these are the things that some of these players need to pick up on, that they're just not getting into the standard regular offense this team is trying to do early enough, or even on the defensive end, they're making some of the same mistakes. It's all about reading and reacting. It's great that Davion is fighting through every screen and jumping these routes and all that stuff, but sometimes that's not what the play calls for. Sometimes you need to switch. Sometimes you need to go one way because your guy's already switched over, And now all of a sudden we got a guy who's running loose because you're trying to jump through every screen like crazy people. And so, yeah, I just think he's trying really hard. And I think a lot of times when players do that, you start to see it. And I think he'll be okay. I just think it's going to take a little while for him to get comfortable.